Okay, so imagine a superpower from the Bronze Age. A civilization that built these incredible cities on a perfect grid, with plumbing that was way ahead of its time. And then, poof, they vanished. Today, we're digging into one of history's greatest mysteries, the Indus Valley Civilization.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? How does that even happen? We have their cities, we have their art, we even have their writing. We just can't read a single word of it. But the people themselves? It's like they just walked off the stage of history. So let's follow the clues and see where they lead.
All right, here's our game plan. To figure out how they disappeared, we've got to find them first. We'll look at their rediscovery, see how their amazing cities came to be, explore what life was like for the people, and then we'll circle all the way back to that one haunting question: where did they all go?
So, for more than 3,000 years, it was as if these people never even existed. They were just buried under layers of dirt and time. Then, only about a century ago, archaeologists started to piece together the story of this forgotten superpower.
The first real clues popped up in 1921 at a site called Harappa. Then, just a year later, the huge city of Mohenjo-Daro was uncovered. And suddenly, archaeologists realized they weren't just looking at some small settlement. No way! They had stumbled upon an entire civilization, one of the great empires of the ancient world.
So how does a society go from just, simple villages to building these massive, complex cities? Well, it turns out there's kind of a universal recipe for it.
It all starts with food. I mean, everything does, right? The foundation for any great civilization is growing more food than you need to survive. Once you have that surplus, it frees people up to do other things. They can become weavers or potters or artists or builders. And that specialization, that's the spark that leads to a whole new, more complex way of life.
And they weren't alone on the world stage. Think about the big names from the ancient world: Mesopotamia, Egypt, China. The Indus Valley Civilization was right there with them, a contemporary giant. And just like the others, it was born from the rich, fertile soil of a major river valley.
But what really sets the Harappans apart, what makes them so mind-blowing, is what they built. Their cities weren't just big. They were masterpieces of engineering, designed with a logic that was centuries, even millennia ahead of its time.
Get this. Their cities were laid out on a perfect grid. We're talking straight roads, right-angle corners. This wasn't the chaotic, messy sprawl you see in most ancient cities. This was deliberate, sophisticated urban planning. To put that in perspective, a lot of cities in Europe wouldn't get this level of organization for another 2,000 years. Just think about that. And honestly, what's even more astonishing was their focus on public health. They engineered a citywide sanitation system. We're talking covered drains made of durable brick, carrying waste safely away from people's homes. This wasn't just advanced for its time, it was absolutely revolutionary. Most of their cities seem to follow a pattern. You've got a lower town where people lived, and a raised citadel, probably for rulers or big public buildings. But, just when we think we have them all figured out, we find a city like Mohenjo-Daro, which is the only major site they found that doesn't have a citadel. It's a great little reminder that this was a really diverse and complex society.
A city is so much more than just bricks and drains, though. So who were the people walking these perfectly straight streets? Let's take a look at what they made, what they traded, and what they believed in.
Their economy was built on farming. Things like wheat and barley were staples. But the Indus people also gave the world a true game changer. They were the very first people to figure out how to cultivate and weave cotton.
And boy, were they master traders. They imported raw materials like gold and copper from all over. And in return, their finished goods, especially those incredible cotton textiles, traveled across the known world, reaching as far away as modern-day Iraq and Iran.
But how do you run a trade network that huge? You need a system, right? A system everyone can trust. Well, archaeologists have found standardized weights and measures across hundreds of different sites, all based on a single number: 16. This one simple fact points to a remarkably sophisticated and highly organized economy.
And through all the archaeology, we get these little glimpses into their daily lives. We know they wore two-piece dresses, they loved jewelry made from copper and silver, and they definitely used cosmetics. And for fun? Well, it seems they had a taste for action, with evidence showing that hunting and even bullfighting were popular pastimes.
But there's just so much we don't know, and the biggest reason why is that we can't read their writing. They had this beautiful pictographic script with around 400 unique signs, mostly found on these little stone seals. But to this day, no one has cracked the code. It's like a locked library holding all of their secrets.
But even if we can't read their words, their art, wow, their art speaks volumes. From Mohenjo-Daro, we have the Dancing Girl, which is thought to be the first bronze statue in the world, made with a super advanced technique. We also have the calm, meditative stone figure of the bearded priest, and of course, those incredibly detailed animal carvings on their seals.
From what we can tell, their beliefs seem to be deeply connected to their farming life. They worshipped a mother goddess, probably representing the earth and fertility, hoping for a good harvest. They also prayed to a god of animals, Pashupati. And there's evidence they worshipped the phallus, which again likely ties back to a strong focus on fertility for both the land and its people.
And this brings us right back to where we started. A civilization this advanced, this organized, this widespread, how could it all just end?
It is the question that has frustrated historians and archaeologists for a solid century. There was no final epic battle that we know of, no single catastrophic event that they carved into stone. All we have are scattered clues and a whole lot of questions.
And this is where the trail goes cold. After sifting through all the evidence, after all the competing theories, the simple, honest-to-goodness truth is, we don't know for sure. It really is one of archaeology's greatest unsolved cases. But we do have several compelling theories. Was it an invasion by outside tribes? Maybe. Was it environmental? A series of devastating floods that just crippled their cities over and over. Or maybe a vital river, the very source of their agricultural life, simply dried up. It could have been any one of those things, or a fatal combination of all of them.
And so, the Indus Valley Civilization remains this beautiful, frustrating enigma. Without their words, we're left to piece together a story told in silent bricks and buried artifacts. What they accomplished was monumental, and their final chapter? Well, it's still waiting to be written. Which just leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What other secrets are still out there, just waiting to be discovered?